This video is inspired by the challenge posed by three pioneering missionaries, William Carey, David Livingstone, and Hudson Taylor, who all asked the critical question, what if they had stayed home? William Carey, the father of modern Protestant missions, served in India for over 40 years. He confronted the question, what if I had stayed home? And realized that choosing comfort would mean remaining silent while others remained in darkness. Hudson Taylor, founder of the China Inland Mission, served in China for over 50 years. He asked, what if fear was louder than faith? He understood that fear could not dictate his response to his calling, despite the profound uncertainty he faced. David Livingstone, a Scottish missionary and explorer in Africa, was driven by the question, what if obedience waited for comfort? He realized that waiting for comfort or dangers to vanish would have prevented him from ever taking the first step.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a short but really powerful piece of theater that's built around one single haunting question. And it's a question that might just make you rethink some of your own choices. So, this is it, the big question at the heart of the whole thing. It sounds so simple, right? But it forces us to think about choice and consequence. Who are they? And what does staying home really actually mean? And this isn't just some dusty historical what if. It's the entire foundation for a theatrical skit called If I Stay Silent, and it's designed really to make us stop and think about the moments that define us. So to really dig into this question, the skit looks at the inner struggle that, let's be honest, we all face. It breaks it down into two timeless conflicts that are probably raging inside all of us right now. First up, it hits us with this internal battle, a voice we all know, the voice of our deepest anxieties telling us to just stay put, versus that pull of our convictions, that little nudge that tells us to take a leap. What's so cool here is how you can see that core tension laid out. On one side, you've got fear. It's paralyzing, it's cautious, it's whispering, stay safe. But on the other side, you have faith. It's what propels you, it's risky, it's that call for a leap into the unknown. The whole skit is asking which one of these voices is going to win out. Okay, so after that, the skit brings up a second conflict, and this one is just as powerful. This one's not just about what we believe, but when we act on it. It poses a really critical question. Do we wait around for that perfect, comfortable moment before we do what we know is right? And yeah, this just illustrates that choice perfectly. Comfort, well, that's the warm, familiar spot. It's security, it's knowing what's coming, it's the path of least resistance. But obedience, at least in this context, is about answering a call. It's about stepping out even when it's hard or inconvenient or, downright scary. It's the choice between the easy path and the right one. But look, these big questions about fear and faith and comfort, they're not just abstract ideas floating around in theory. The skit makes them super real by focusing on three historical figures who wrestled with these exact same choices. So first up, we've got William Carey. He's often called the father of modern missions. And get this, he was a shoemaker from England who, completely against all odds and pretty much everyone's advice, felt this incredible call to go to India way back in the late 18th century. Next is David Livingstone, the famous Scottish missionary and explorer. He was driven by this desire to map out the continent of Africa and help put an end to the slave trade, and he ventured into places that Europeans had never even seen before. And finally, there's Hudson Taylor. This guy didn't just go to China in the 19th century. He spent over 50 years there. He founded the China Inland Mission and completely changed the game by immersing himself in the local culture. And that right there is the whole point. These three men, they're the living, breathing answers to that first question. They are the they who face that battle of fear versus faith, of comfort versus calling. And at the end of the day, they chose not to stay home. Okay, so that leads us to the other side of the coin, right? If they chose not to stay home, what happened? What was the result of that action? What was the echo of their choice? It's actually a pretty clever way to frame it. By asking, what if they stayed home, it forces you to think about the alternative, the world we actually live in, because they decided to act. It paints their action not just as a footnote in a history book, but as a truly pivotal event. So the implication here is huge. Their decision created this massive ripple effect through time. I mean, Carey's work led to Bible translations for millions of people. Livingstone's explorations were a key part of ending the East African slave trade. Taylor's mission inspired literally thousands of others to follow in his footsteps. Their choice wasn't small. It created a tangible legacy that actually altered the course of history. And this is where it all comes together, bringing us to the final and, honestly, the most important part of this whole thing. Because this story, it isn't just about they way back then. It's about I right now. Remember the title of the skit we mentioned at the very beginning? It's not just a name. It's the key that unlocks the entire point of the piece. And boom, there it is. See what it does? It deliberately and kind of brilliantly shifts the focus from they in the past to a very personal I in the present moment. It takes a historical question and makes it an immediate personal one. And why does that matter so much? Because the whole point of looking back at Carey and Livingstone and Taylor, well, it's all designed to be a mirror. It's meant to reflect those same fundamental choices, fear versus faith, comfort versus obedience, right back at us, here and now. And so we're left with this final, flipped question. The skit starts by asking what would have been lost if they had stayed home. But the real challenge it leaves us with is this: what might be gained if you don't?